Hello guys, so today I will talk about some problems I have with the way enemies to lovers is being done right now. Emphasis on the way it is being done, because I don't actually have a problem with the enemies to lovers trope, by itself. I actually really like the trope, mainly because I just like the idea of two people who actually do not get along at all, slowly getting to know each other better and having this like slow development and slow burn where they start seeing the good sides of each other, and this is why they fall in love. I think that's actually a really cute love story. However, I have some issues with the way certain authors are doing it. It's because enemies to lovers, if it's well done, it's a trope that really requires effort, because you have these two people who should, in a good enemies to lovers, generally hate each other for valid reasons, and now you should like show how they slowly get to know each other and get over that hate they have and slowly fall in love and learn to accept those feelings. However, now these days it's not this at all. There's a bunch of different ways which enemies to lovers can be badly done. Okay, the first one, this is one that actually has existed for a longer time. um it's when it's like not enemies to lovers, it's bully and victim to abuser and victim. Okay. Basically this trope is like, you have like usually a guy but sometimes a girl who bullies the main character. However, it turns out they only do it because they actually liked the character, and so the character is a doormat and completely forgives them, and then they get together. However, even as they get together, often this character is still not a good person and does not treat them well, and often during the bullying it's not something redeemable whatsoever. The only time I could forgive it was in The Cruel Prince, because to be fair, it wasn't the book. I really liked it because it wasn't that focused on romance. It had great characters and an interesting plot, and you could forgive the Carton, I think was his name, because he actually did become a lot more likable later on. However, yeah, often it's like this very toxic relationship. Like this guy is just so mean to this girl, and she barely does anything to stand up for herself, and is also so quick to forgive him. Like, and that's the difference between in Cruel Prince as well, where like she didn't immediately just let it slide. She was really angry and she stood up for herself. She wasn't a doormat, the main character, so that's why it was fine. But that's an exception. And then, like I said, usually then when they get into the relationship, the bully is still not a good person. They're still like this manipulative and very toxic person in general. So I really dislike when it's done like this. Now this is a older issue which I feel like people are getting over slowly. However, a more recent issue is, as enemies to lovers has gotten extremely popular, mainly due to book talk, I feel like some writers are just forcing this dynamic into their books, and they're not putting any effort into it. They're just focusing on like checking off all the popular tropes right now. So you have this like enemies to lovers where, first of all, sometimes they don't have a real reason to hate each other at all, and they don't even really hate each other. Like a good example would be the hating game. I thought this book would be so good, but it was awful. They had no real reason to hate each other. They never hated each other. Um, they were just kind of rude to each other, and then they liked each other, but there wasn't really a good reason for them to like each other, and there was no development. It's just this girl was really horny, and then they got together for some reason, and it was so weird. Yeah, that's something I hate. But the main thing I hate is like where it's just and this is in a book I recently read, Fort Wing. It's like you have they're supposed to be enemies, but they it's just that the main character thinks that this guy hates her, but he doesn't really. You're like it's kind of confusing, really. And then later on, they never really build a connection, but Violet is just like really, you know, into him because he's so attractive, and then they start get being attracted to each other because their dragons are bonded, and that's why they fall in love. So it's not like you have these people that actually hate each other at all. They really, throughout this book, they mostly felt like strangers who called themselves and who like acted called themselves enemies, and in the end they were supposed to be called lovers, but it made no sense whatsoever to me. And it's like you have these two people who are not even enemies in the slightest. It's just, a bit. You have like a sprinkle of enemies, I guess, and then the author puts no effort into um, developing these characters and their relationships so that they can grow and learn to, stop hating each other and liking each other, because they never even hated each other to begin with. And it's like they kind of always liked each other. They were always like interested in each other, and it just takes time until they acknowledge it. But there's also no reason for them to like each other. It's just there because these are like two attractive people, and you have no meaningful connection between these two characters that is being built. It's really lazy, and at this point, many books don't have the right to call themselves enemies to lovers. It's a trope I adore, but oh my god, it is being done so poorly right now. Like, really. I genuinely would be so happy if you could recommend me any books or movies, TV shows, anything with a good version of enemies to lovers, because the way things are being done right now, I actually really hate it. But I actually do love this trope. And another big issue is, and I guess this is the problem with many romances these days, not just enemies to lovers, but I see it especially here, is you can't even develop the characters you would usually do in a good book with enemies to lovers, because these characters, they don't really have a personality, and the book doesn't have a plot outside of this romance, and it's so clear, such a lazy cash grab. I actually really don't like what BookTok has done to books. I mean, many people have talked about this. I decided to focus on the enemies to lovers aspect because it's generally bothering me so much. But yeah, overall, I just feel like there's no effort being put into these relationships to make them complex and interesting. It's just, it's just checking off all these tropes. Anyways, that's my opinion on the way enemies to lovers is being done right now. Feel free to comment down below how you feel about these type of tropes, and what you think about the way authors are handling it. And other than that, I would say I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye!